How's it going, everybody? Bryan, Alvarez, Dave Meltzer here, Wrestling Observer Radio. It is November 22nd, 2018, figure4online.com/wrestlingobserver.com. We got a lot to get into here today, so let's get going. Everyone's asking, All Elite Wrestling, what's the story?
You asked me. I mean,
you've written all about it today.
I've written some stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's you know the situation. Until they have a TV deal, it's an idea. If they get a TV deal, it could be big, just like everybody else. If there's a TV deal, there could be big. The key thing with the trademarks that they filed for is that it's pretty clear that this is the company that Cody Rhodes and the Young Bucks, are earmarked for, because some of the stuff, the Double or Nothing, I think, is the key one. Double or Nothing was the name that they wanted to use for the second All-In show. And these guys are trademarking Double or Nothing, so it's got to be with their blessing, which tells you that they're in. So the guy behind it is Tony Kahn, who is the son of Shahid Khan, and he's a longtime wrestling fan. He's subscribed to The Observer since he was probably, 14 years old. It's been 20 years plus, and he's 36, so I couldn't tell you the exact year he started, but it's been a long, long time. And he was a correspondent years ago, and he heads analytics for. He has a company that does analytics for a lot of Major League Baseball teams, actually more than half of the Major League Baseball teams. And he's involved with his father owns the Jacksonville Jaguars and Fulham, FC of the English Premier League. And he works for both. He's the general manager of the Fulham team. He does analytics and a lot more with the Jacksonville Jaguars, senior vice president of football technology and analytics for the Jaguars for the last 6.5 years. And he runs a couple of other companies, True Media Networks, an engineering firm specializing in sports analytics for franchise and media partners. He's got interest in an entertainment company for artists in music, film, and TV, the artist films and TV industries. And so that's that's his key background. And, the whole thing now is, again, what I can tell you is that the deal, without the Young Bucks, this deal is not going to exist. So if WWE gets the Young Bucks, or Ring of Honor, Sinclair decides we're gonna make a big offer and keep them, and we're gonna try to fight Vince, or we're gonna try to challenge Vince. Who knows? There's no contract signed with anybody, nor can there be right now, because these guys are under contract till the end of the year. Cody and Brandy Rhodes are the only ones who negotiate with them, because they are not under contract to anybody right now. And Chris Jericho. The reports of Jericho, this being like a Jericho and Jim Ross thing, have always been, I would say, those were inaccurate stories, or Barry Bloom or whatever. Those were inaccurate stories. Those guys, it's entirely possible. Ross would, at the earliest, could come along in April, given that he works for WWE. But there's no guarantees of that at all. And with Jericho's a free agent, and obviously knows about all this. But, Jericho, the thing with Jericho, he was always, when he went to Japan, the one thing people have to understand is when he went to New Japan, the idea was that he would get out of WWE. He thought it was time to get out of WWE. It would get him out of WWE. It would keep him alive with the wrestling audience, and it would make him a larger character, because he would perform sporadically in Japan in high-profile matches that people would see. And then when he would go back to WWE, he would be a bigger star than when he left. That was always his idea. Now, things changed since then. And, before he had always said he would never work in the United States against, with anyone but WWE. And even before that, he had said he would never work in pro wrestling with anyone but WWE. And times changed. And as far as, but at the same time, he could easily go back to WWE. The thing, and I would think that he would, but the one thing that makes this a little bit different, this scenario different, is the cruises. He wants to do the annual cruise. WWE is pretty much, they turned him down the first time. Now, that doesn't mean they'll always turn him down, but they turned him down the first time. And there's a question if they would want to be involved so strongly, but maybe they would, But if they don't want to be involved, then it's to his benefit to, if the cruise thing is going to be one of his annual projects, then it's for his benefit not to be in WWE, but to be in wrestling and to have an affiliation. Now, he had an affiliation. He didn't work for Ring of Honor, but he made a deal with Ring of Honor for the last cruise, last set of cruises that, all the talent came, with the exception of Kenny Omega, and, all the talent came from either Ring of Honor or Impact, because he's friends with Don Callis. But it didn't come, him, it would make sense for him to have a strong involvement in a company that has talent that he could use that would be marketable on his cruise. That would all make sense in that regard. But again, without a television deal, we're like way ahead of ourselves, in trying to who's going to come in, who's not. Everyone in the business today, it was something that people were talking about. I can tell you that in WWE, I know of people that, are very, very interested in this. I know several names. That doesn't mean that they'll do anything, but they're very open to the idea. Of course, if it gets off the ground and there's something tangible here, which as of today, as of this moment, there really isn't, other than an idea. And it's not like this is the only guy with an idea. I mean, Jeff Jarrett's had this idea for years and has never gotten television, and he's not the only one. Billy Corgan hasn't gotten television, and Billy Corgan's a famous guy, in the entertainment world. And Toby Keith's a famous guy in the entertainment world, and he hasn't been able to get a television deal for a wrestling promotion. So it's not like you just, I'm a rich guy, snap my fingers and I got TV. It's just not that easy. So we're a long way from anything, but it is interesting that obviously certain guys, Cody and the Young Bucks, have to have a certain level of confidence in this thing to allow them to do that Double or Nothing trademark, because that was Double or Nothing was clearly Cody's line for the second All-In show. And so there you go. I don't know. Is there any other questions?
The obvious question is, what's their plan?
Well, until you have TV, there is no plan.
Well, if they get TV, what's the plan? The obvious question is, in order to have a wrestling promotion, you've got to have wrestlers. And right now, All In was a big success, and they used people from Ring of Honor, they used people from New Japan, they had folks from Ring of Honor help them to put the show together.
Yep.
And if they get a television deal, and all of a sudden they're doing something, there's no guarantee they're going to get any help from Ring of Honor. There's no guarantee they're going to get any help from New Japan. Where are the wrestlers going to come from? What's his promotion going to look like?
Well, there'll always be wrestlers. I don't think getting bodies is a problem. There's so many wrestlers out there right now that, would...
Yeah, but you can look at MLW, and they've got a lot of big names on the indies right now. And what separates this from MLW, besides you've got the Young Bucks, presumably Cody, and maybe Kenny Omega, or whoever?
Well,
you're building everything around four guys, it sounds like.
Well, there's nothing that separates them. There's nothing that separates them unless they get a better television deal or a streaming deal or something. And it's got to be television. Streaming is great as a secondary thing, and you may be able to make money. And clearly, you follow all sports right now, but especially your boxing and your MMA, and you can see, DAZN especially, and ESPN Plus, they're both paying huge money for for rights. I mean, millions of dollars a show for UFC and millions of dollars for Bellator, for that matter. They're paying big money. I mean, not millions of dollars, not even hundreds of thousands, but a lot of money for Combate Americas. PFL is getting talks with ESPN Plus right now. So and these are groups that have no-name fighters, really. I mean, Eric Perez is in Combate, and there's a couple of guys that would be recognizable in PFL, several, and they're trying to build Kayla, Harrison is like a big marquee star. But ultimately, these are, PFL's doing a little over 100,000 viewers a show, which is hardly anything, really. But still, yes, these people everybody wants something. They want content on the streaming services. That's a real big deal right now. And right now, I mean, nobody, does that mean that I've got to believe that these services, if they're going to pay so much for PFL, that they would, or Combate Americas, that a pro wrestling group could get money, but still, you need television. So, no, nothing separates them until they get television. If they get television, believe me, they'll have plenty of places to get talent from. Now, the New Japan thing is absolutely a big one, because New Japan has its access.
And Ring of Honor. I mean, Ring of Honor is just going to let them use talent for their national television show?
No. Well, no. They're not going to be able to use Ring of Honor talent. I mean, I don't see that as I mean, I can't say for sure, who knows what's going to happen, but I do not see Ring of Honor letting them use talent. And then the whole thing goes, what does New Japan do? Do they go with the group, again, theoretically, that has Cody and the Young Bucks and Hangman Page, that are all key guys that they use all the time, and presumably Kenny Omega, but look, and here's the thing, all these guys still want to work New Japan. I shouldn't say all, but pretty much all is a fair thing to say, some more than others, but they all want to work New Japan, okay? And they're willing to work New Japan, and New Japan can keep these guys. The whole thing is that now what happens to New Japan's U.S. expansion? That becomes a weird thing. What happens to New Japan's relationship with Ring of Honor? Because, New Japan has always been loyal to those, the groups. Now they do change. Like once it was UWA, later it was CMLL. If the guys, if they can get better talent with this group than with Ring of Honor, what do they do? And we don't know what they'll do. I mean, the key guy obviously is Omega, and I don't see, as long as Omega wants to work New Japan, I don't see them not using him. I find that to be, but again, who knows? Who knows how New Japan's going to take this? That's a big part of the story. And I think that, again, with New Japan, it all will depend on, look, if they have, far better television than Ring of Honor, if they do, that's to New Japan's benefit. If they don't, there's not a story here anyway. I mean, realistically. So, yeah, that's, there's a lot to, it's very much a wait and see. That's why I really didn't want to talk about it. And I really wouldn't even want to too much now, because it's trademarks, but these guys aren't under contracts. They can still go somewhere else, all of them. But obviously they are considering this more than just a viable option. I mean, the trademarks tell you there are guys that are considering this more than a viable option. And you watch Being the Elite, and if you watch Being the Elite, pretty much that they're not doing those skits thinking they're going to WWE anytime soon. That doesn't mean they won't. Things can change in a heartbeat. So, like I said, it's a holding pattern. I know people want more information. There is no more information. There's as far as what type of thing they're going to do. I think that it's pretty clear that when the show, they have something called Tuesday Night Dynamite, that their preferred idea is a Tuesday night television show. I think that's kind of tells you something right there. But you can always change that. And again, that's going to be up to you're not going to necessarily go in and go, this is the night. I mean, if the TV provider may go, hey, like Fox, I'm sure WWE would rather be on Tuesday on Fox, but Fox told them they're on Friday. Friday's a bad day, but that's the day they want them. And WWE had to redo everything. They got to redo their touring schedule. They got to redo all their plans, everything, the way they do business, because they're getting all kinds of money to be on Friday, not on Tuesday. It's not 2 straight days of tapings anymore. It changes everyone's life, but it's the TV station that dictates to you, what day you want to be on. So, I mean, the Tuesday thing is interesting, but that's hardly like, okay, they're going to be on Tuesday. It's like, obviously, they would probably prefer to be on Tuesday, and so that's the strategy. Perhaps that's the best day, but again, who are they? Again, TV deal is TV deal's the key. If they get the TV, if you get a big paying TV deal, and it's hard with nothing, with no starting from scratch. I mean, the thing that they've got essentially selling is the success of All In, which is one show that was very, very successful, and that these guys have a successful YouTube show, and that they are very, very strong in merchandise sales. So those are the pitches that you got. You're not going in totally cold, but you've still, you've produced one pay-per-view show that was, didn't go through the roof as best I could tell, because I'm sure if it went through the roof, I'd know the numbers, but was clearly not a failure either, because just the streaming numbers alone were, very pleasantly successful, for them, but based on the level of what they were going to do. So, and Live Gate and everything like that, merchandise-wise, those shows were, super successful. But it's one show. It's not it's very different from running, television shows once a week. So, and building an office and all that. So there's a lot to this. I'm sure that,